You need to make a phone call. Simple one. Maybe booking an appointment. Maybe calling your bank. Maybe just checking in with someone you haven't spoken to in a while. You know exactly what you need to say, but you don't dial yet. First, you run through it. Hi, I'm calling about. No, wait. Hello, I wanted to ask about. Try again. Hi, my name is. Actually, they don't need my name yet. You play the whole conversation in your head. You prepare for what they might say. You prepare for what you'll say back. You even prepare for the awkward silence if it goes wrong. And then, only then, you hover your thumb over the call button. Sometimes for a full minute, before finally pressing it. If this is you, you are not alone. And you are not weird. A 2019 survey found that 70% of millennials experience anxious thoughts when the phone rings. 70%. That means the majority of people you know are doing exactly what you just did. Running the script, preparing the lines, rehearsing the performance. But why? Why does a simple phone call, something humans have been doing for over 100 years, feel like stepping onto a stage? The answer is more interesting than you'd expect. And it starts with something your brain lost the moment texting was invented. Think about what happens when you send a message to someone. You type it, you read it back, you edit it. Maybe you delete it entirely and start again. You decide exactly how you want to sound. And then, when it's perfect, you send it. With written communication, you have time to gather your thoughts and edit before pressing send. You are in complete control of how you present yourself. But a phone call? A phone call takes all of that control away. The moment someone picks up, you're live. No editing. No backspace. No, actually, let me rephrase that. Whatever comes out of your mouth is the version they hear. And your brain knows this. Your brain knows that on a phone call, anything can happen. They might ask something you didn't prepare for. The line might be bad, and you'll have to repeat yourself. You might forget the whole reason you called the moment they say hello. Your brain hates this kind of uncertainty, so it does the only thing it knows how to do. It tries to prepare for every possible version of the conversation. It runs simulations. If they say this, I'll say that. If they ask about this, I'll mention that. If there's a silence, I'll say. Your brain is essentially writing a script for a play where it doesn't know anyone else's lines. Psychologists have a name for what your brain is doing. It's called an imagined interaction. And researchers have spent decades studying why we do it. Mental rehearsal of conversations serves several key psychological functions. It helps process emotions, prepare for important interactions, and transform the unknown into something more predictable and manageable. In other words, your brain rehearses because uncertainty feels like a threat. And a phone call is one of the most uncertain social situations your brain regularly faces. Think about it. In a face-to-face conversation, you get so much information. You can see their face. You can read their body language. You can tell from their eyes if they're confused, bored, or amused. Research has shown that 55% of all communication is visual, facial expressions, gestures, body language. On a phone call, all of that disappears. You're left with just a voice. No visual cues. No expressions to read. Just words and tone, and your brain trying to fill in everything else. It's like trying to read a book with half the pages missing. And your brain, as we've talked about before, hates missing pages, so it writes them in advance. But here's where it gets really interesting. And this is the part most people never reach. Your rehearsal isn't just about the call itself. It's about something much deeper. Something your brain has been worried about your entire life. Psychologists who study phone anxiety say it's not really about the phone call at all. It's about what you believe about yourself. Read that again. It's not about the call. It's about what you believe about yourself. When you rehearse what you're going to say, you're not just preparing words. You're protecting an image. The image of someone who is competent. Who sounds confident. Who doesn't stumble over their words or forget what they called for. Your brain is terrified of the moment where that image cracks. Where you fumble. Where there's a long silence. Where the person on the other end thinks, even for a second, that you don't know what you're doing. Psychologists link this directly to a need for mastery over unpredictable situations. The phone call becomes a mini battle where your brain tries to plan for every possible twist. And so your brain rehearses, not because you're anxious, but because you care. You care about how you come across. You care about the person on the other end of the line. You care about not wasting their time. That's not a weakness. That's actually something very few people have. Now here's the part that might surprise you. That rehearsal your brain runs, it actually works. In a study on mental rehearsal, participants who had imagined their conversations beforehand had fewer silent pauses and more fluency in their actual delivery. They also felt less nervous. So your brain found a solution to a real problem, and the solution is effective. The only issue is when the rehearsal goes too far. When you spend 20 minutes preparing a 2-minute call. When you run the script so many times that you're more anxious than when you started. When the call feels so rehearsed that the moment they say something unexpected, and they always do, your whole mental script collapses. Social anxiety researchers have identified that when rehearsal becomes excessive, it can actually increase anxiety rather than reduce it, because it reinforces the idea that the call is something to be feared rather than something to simply have. Your brain set out to make the call easier. But somewhere along the way, it made the call the enemy. There's one more thing worth knowing. Something that changes how the whole thing feels. Research from Cornell University shows that we significantly overestimate how much we're messing things up, and we consistently underestimate how much the people we talk to actually like us. Yale researchers call this the liking gap. After conversations, people like us more than we think they do. The stumble you're so worried about? The moment you forgot your point mid-sentence? The slightly awkward silence before you found your words? The other person barely noticed. And if they did notice, they didn't care nearly as much as you did. Because they were too busy managing their own version of the same fear. Here's the strange truth about phone calls. Almost everyone finds them slightly uncomfortable. Almost everyone braces a little before dialing. Almost everyone has had a moment where they froze, fumbled, or forgot what they called for. You're not the only one running a mental script before pressing dial. You're just the one who noticed you were doing it. So what does all of this mean? It means that the next time you catch yourself rehearsing a phone call, stop judging yourself for it. Your brain is doing something intelligent. It's trying to protect you from social uncertainty. It's trying to make sure you show up prepared, confident, and considerate of the person you're calling. That is not anxiety being dramatic. That is your brain caring deeply about how you connect with people. The only shift worth making is this. Give yourself permission to be slightly imperfect on the call, not because imperfection doesn't matter, but because the person on the other end is rooting for you. They want the call to go well too. They're not sitting there waiting for you to stumble. And the version of you that occasionally fumbles, that pauses, searches for a word, laughs at their own awkwardness, is far more human and far more likable than the perfectly rehearsed version your brain was trying to perform. Research actually shows that people can hear a smile in your voice, and that smiling while speaking makes you sound more confident, even if you don't feel it. So next time, take a breath. Run your script once if you need to. And then put the script down. Because the best version of the call isn't the rehearsed one. It's the real one. If your brain does this, if it overthinks the small things that most people around you seem to handle without a second thought, that's not a flaw. That's depth. That's the kind of mind this channel is made for.